Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the GRL podcast. It is episode 27, and this week we're at the Hungarian at Shock, Hungary, in Budapest. It was round 12, so basically just over the halfway point of the season. So once again, 50% of the season just over, I said done. It will be interesting looking at the driver standings and the Hungarian obviously being quite tight and twisty and being one of the closer natural tracks towards a street circuit. So it's going to be interesting to see who couldn't finish the race because there's a couple of awareness or just in general some racing issues and who made it through in the end. Um, I'm not alone. I actually got two people with me tonight, which are Blade as always and Avenicus from Division 3 as well. So yeah, three people here tonight to guide you through this action. And I would say we start as always with Division 1. In Division 1, it was Welsh Jack who got pole position and also won the main race, just ahead of Blade in P2, with B Mitzi, the TTM driver, in P3 for Ferrari. Then we've got Beeford in P4, Snipes in P5, Ghosts in P6, Atom77 myself in P7, Tiaja Alex in P8, GSA Delta in P9 and DNFs for Top Neo Racer, AMS Drive, FG Leo, FG House, Torpen, Jacob, Sora, Pablo, and also a championship contender in Esselaham. Looking at the driver standing, Snipes still leads the way on 180 points. He actually extends his championship lead on Esselaham in P2 as he sits on 164 points. Welsh Jack in P3 on 151 points. So he jumps Beeford, who sits in P4 on 144 points. Blade then now in P5 passes Radius. He's now on 108 points, while Radius remains on his 97, as he sadly has to grind FIFA, which is not helping his championship. Mark Souza then in P7 with 58 points, Ghost Jr. on 54, Sora on 43, same as Jaeger as well on 43, all runners outside of the top 10. Below the 40 points mark. In the Constructors' Championship, Alpine extend the lead. They've now got 331 points to their name. Alfa Romeo second on 207, but they lose a couple of points to the third place runners Mercedes on 194. Aston Martin then on 164 points and McLaren on 139, with Ferrari jumping 2 positions up into P6 on 115, with Haas on 112 and Red Bull on 99. Then Williams have got 94 points due to a solid finishing result for Senior Ghosts, and Alpha Tauri in P10 on 17 points. Well, let's start with Blade. I mean, you raced obviously in this one, second place in the end, quite solid, but it looked like Welsh Jack was, even though he had Mitzi with him, who sadly had time penalties, it looked like Welsh Jack was unbeatable that day because the pace he had, nobody could really match in the end.
Yeah, no, he did a great job, obviously. I think his third pole in a row, so he's on a bit of a streak in terms of that, but sadly for him, the more recent races he hasn't been able to convert that to a win until Hungary, and yeah, it was a great performance. He didn't even need his final run to be able to get pole, because I think if I remember correctly, he lagged out or before his last run, but crucially didn't lag out in the race. And yeah, I seem to remember quite a few people started on the mediums as well as the hards, but I think Welsh Jack stuck with the more standard strategy on starting on the hards, along with Mitzi, and they managed to stay at the front. The medium runners couldn't take advantage. And then there was a safety car, which, seemed pretty early for the people who were on hards to switch to the mediums, but it just turned out that even with over half of the race distance left, the mediums were just a much better tyre than the hards. And because of that, him and Midsey, who were, I think, the only two hard runners that switched onto mediums up front, kind of gapped everyone else, and I was in third after not my best quali, fighting through the field, managed to get to third, and was in Midsey's penalty window of 6 seconds, I think.
Yes.
So, uh, yeah, obviously, like you said, Midsey did a great job sticking with Welshcheck because Welshcheck had some incredible pace, but obviously couldn't do it without going off the track a couple of times, which ended up costing him a position to me. So yeah, good stuff for Welshcheck.
Yeah, definitely. And focusing on another driver still. I mean, Ham, second in the championship, retired at lap one due to some contact, just ahead of Snipes as well. So could have probably seen two championship contenders out of the race at lap one, but in the end it was only Ham, and he lost a couple of points to Snipes. Do you think that's going to influence his approach to the season? Because Ham was always thereabout, and now he's like 16 points off. Is that quite a tough hit for him, or do you reckon he can get back up?
Yeah, well, it would be a shame if this incident causes him to drop to reserve or anything like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no. I think, yeah, it's definitely not great for your title race if you get taken out on lap one. From what I saw, it was not his fault at all. Really, it was kind of just um, I don't know.
I
It,
think it
it
was
just
just
seemed like
catching the
lap
wheels with
one
Red
chaos, wasn't
Bulls.
it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
got unlucky.
but obviously, quite a big loss of points. I think he was alongside Snipes, but I don't think Snipes had the best pace. I don't really know. So he could have been able to capitalise and, close back in, but obviously just, sometimes with racing it doesn't go as planned, and that was definitely the case for Ham this race. So we'll see if well, I alluded to it, but if he races again, maybe he can bounce back and hopefully, despite being a reserve now, maybe he can make more races than he initially expected.
Yeah, obviously it would be a shame because Ham, as said, is a pretty good driver. I mean, yeah, also in the constructors, it all looks quite close, except yeah, we talked about it in recent weeks. Alpha Taurin that we can bring a Venicus in, I think. Your team is Alpha Tauri, but you're leading like Division 3 constructors by quite a big margin, but I guess the Division 1 guys have not really got to hurry up yet because they're 80 points off. I mean, I think you need to tell them that they should maybe give it a go to score points, shouldn't you? Because that's certainly not ideal.
I mean, Team Boss Koyi down in was he Division 5?
Four.
Yes, Division 4. He has said like in the team chat like well done to Division 3 and Division 5 for bringing up all those points, and to the Division 1 guys especially. But even if we go back to the beginning of the season, the constructor standings, AlphaTauri won minus 55 points at the end of race 1. So they've clearly had some clawing back to do.
Yeah.
So if we add those 55 to their tally, they're still nowhere near Williams anyway. So yeah, they do need to get a bit of a hurry up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so have you heard it, AlphaTauri? That's your motivational speech. You would have not even been close to Williams if you never had minus points, so get your act together. I mean, currently they've got Sam and Dan, which are short names, and they don't really score much more points at this rate, so that's certainly not ideal for them, but yeah, gonna be interesting as well for the next 2 rounds. But that's it for Division 1, and I think we can head straight over to Division 2, where it once again was Bars who won. He also got pole position, so huge result for Mercedes once more, with Rob Kelly in second. in the Aston Martin, and AMS Cole in third for Ferrari. Then we've got Dylan Baxter in P4, Essela Evo in P5, Jamie Hobbs in P6, Wylad in P7, Turbo in P8, Squixie in P9. Our favourite Welshman, AMS Lloyd, in P10, with further down the order, we've got Beatty Jordan, Omalo, and Panos with DNFs for Dream Team and Jam. In the driver standings then, Gente Bars leads the way now with 205 points. He's 55 points ahead of Hobbs, so a massive lead for the Belgian driver. Then we've got SLI Jam in P3 on 144 points, and Dylan Baxter on 123. Then Amos Colden in P5 on 108 points, and Jim still on 98 as the best reserve. Slapbuston on 78 points in P7, and Savage Cabbage with 70 points in P8. Beauty Jordan on 67 points in P9, moving up the table just ahead of P10 in AMS Partick. He sits on 64 points, level tagging with AMS Lloyd. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes obviously extend their championship lead to now 298 points. They are 97 points ahead of second place team Haas on 201 points. Alfa Romeo sit then on 174 points, with Ferrari on 173. McLaren then on 153, with just ahead of AlphaTauri, who sit on 147, so they're doing clearly better than in Division 1 here. In P7, we now have Aston Martin, who actually move up 2 positions on 134 points, and they drop down the teams of Red Bull in P8 on 131 points, and Alpine on 127. And we've got the classic picture here again, where it's Williams with 43 points, clearly off the pace. Well, as said, history repeats itself really weekly now. I mean, Blade Gente is really not helping this championship tension. But behind him, it's still quite close. I mean, if you look at the midfield from like Jim or maybe Slap Us downwards, it's all really close.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, very competitive grid, and like you say, it is very close. But yeah, Gente is doing an incredibly impressive job right now. I think that's his third win in a row. So, I mean, really, those 3 races alone would put him in the fight with those midfield drivers you just mentioned. So, I mean, there isn't really too much to say. Like, as for the midfield, obviously, some great drivers down there. I think they can make a push potentially towards the top 3, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how often Cole races. Oh, it seems like he did turn up, so he did well, I think. Did he?
He finished third this time. He, on average, has got 12 points per race. 20 would be even better. 12 points per race, which is around P6. And didn't retire yet, and completed races 9. So he's missed like 3 rounds, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, I can see the likes of Jim if he turns up, getting up there. I think Jordan Partick, they're pretty handy on their day. They can move up a couple positions potentially, and a little further down you have Hypes, who he's a quick driver. Lloyd, who he's good for quali bands, I've heard. But no, he's good as well, and Jobbo as well, I think, can do a good job on his day. So a lot of drivers with pretty well known drivers from previous seasons. I think they definitely have a shot at moving further up, but I doubt anyone will be getting anywhere close to Gente anytime soon. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Nicely summed up. And yeah, I think we can stay at the topic of Magic Shente bars when we just head over to our Division 3 Championship lead. I mean, Avenicus is also leading the championship by quite a bit now. It's not quite 55 points. But how is usually your thought process in these races when you actually have, you've won a couple of races back to back? Is it just okay, I'm gonna get pole and run away and win again, or is it a bit more humble and like, okay, let's just think from race to race, pick up solid points, focus on who I'm racing? How is your approach in these situations really? Because surely at this point, Gente Bars can probably get the top of his head and maybe just overthink it and can be like, yeah, okay, I don't really have competition, maybe can go for a bit more of a risky strategy.
I mean, this isn't the first championship he's leading either. If you bring in BBS League, he's leading in that as well.
Yeah,
For me, I tend to take it race by race, whether it's the strategy or whether it's the drivers around me. I it a lot of it comes down to practice as well. Like a lot of the races I've been putting in hours and hours of practice because the amount of free time I have. But it seems that he's on an absolute roll at the moment, and he seems absolutely unstoppable. Honestly, that's like you said, 3 wins in a row. He did get pole as well, like you said. So his pace seems absolutely unbelievable. But I guess we'll see in future whether he can keep that going.
yeah. I mean, we talked about his results last week, Blade and me. I mean, just to bring it up, since Spain when the divisions got merged, first, fifth, second, first. Well, I would like those statistics to be honest, but well, that's. I mean, I think you can work with that at least, but yeah. Looking further down there at the constructor standings, I mean, we said Mercedes are probably the guys to beat this season because they've clearly got the strongest driver pairing. With Jam moving up, they've basically got the top two of the top three drivers in this division, and Haas have a little bit of a buffer. But with Jam moving up, Blade, do you reckon like that all the other teams have another new chance really to at least get the runners-up spot, like we had it last season in Division Two, where Alpine was gone, but behind them it was just melee, and they were just all racing for P2.
Yeah, I think P2 is pretty closely contested. I can't remember who Jam's teammate was, but obviously losing Jam regardless is a pretty huge loss for them. So, um,
Yes.
yeah, I think Haas are in trouble, and I don't think they'll be, unless they get a very strong driver to replace Jam, the outgoing Jam. Yeah, they need a strong driver to be able to maintain P2. So we'll see what they can cook up. But yeah, Alfa Romeo, Ferrari, McLaren. I mean, all the way until down to Alpine. They're all pretty close, aren't they? Not
Exactly,
about
yeah.
yeah 70-ish points separating P2 to P9. So that's I mean, that's like what one sprint weekend. If they like a team like Alpine has
Yes,
an absolutely
exactly.
amazing weekend, they could move all the way from ninth to
At least
up
be
to
5.
second. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, as you did,
so
you brought up like driver changes as well. I mean, it's going to be interesting because Mercedes teams like Mercedes, Ferrari stay the same as McLaren. But for example, Red Bull, we know Slappas wasn't racing really, but Rob Kelly now joins them. He's proven himself. We all know Rob Kelly, so he's a really good driver. I mean, Alpine might struggle. They might pick up a couple of penalties with Somans joining them. But that's just how it goes. I mean, Williams is completely off the pack, but they've got FSM and Trazi. If they can keep it on the track for once, I think they're not fully out of the window for at least from P8 or so. But yeah, I mean, I think we can both agree that FSM and Trazi are probably not the safest duo you can pick. And also what do you think of Haas? Because obviously Cham's gone, Drastic Blaze stays as tier 2 driver, and now they've got Panos as replacement for Jam. I mean, Panos was here in season 3 last time out. He's won at Portimao, which is the next track upcoming. He's got a quali ban there, but he always was one of the top drivers in Division 2. You reckon he can kind of replace Jam in a decent manner? Or do you think he's just fulfilling big footsteps?
Yeah, I think it would be hard for Panels. Obviously, remembering from season 3, Panels was a really good driver. I think he was probably one of the top Div 2 drivers probably on his
Yeah, I
day.
would say top
So,
10 for sure, yeah.
yeah. So, but considering Jam was probably at least the top 3 in this championship on this game, I think that's going to be pretty hard to beat. So, and I don't know how quick Panels is on this game. Maybe, or maybe I don't know too much and he's an absolute maniac and will win every race instead of Genta bars, but something tells me that's not quite the case. I still think he'll be very strong. Any driver who's won in one of the higher divisions last season uh, definitely knows what they're doing, I think. So, yeah, I think panels will do a good job. I don't know, Drastic Blaze. I don't really know much about him, but I think from the little I have seen from him in other leagues, I think he's pretty quick on his day. So I guess it's just down to whether he turns up or whether he crashes or whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, with all the new drivers joining in and others leaving, it's certainly going to be interesting how Division 2 evolves. But yeah, let's head over to Division 3, where it was the last Division 3 race for Venicus. He's won with the fastest lap from P2. Tango with quite some margin, if I remember correctly. Then we've got TAR Hayes in P2, so the first woman to actually pick up a GRL podium. In P3, we've got Corey. So after consistently driving into people, he's decided that the podium is the one he wants. So he picks up P3 after starting P4, so also good qualifying from him. We've got Luca B in P4, Marcelo in P5, Boosted in P6, Eterau in P7, Lawn in P8, and Ashim Basha in P9, who got pole position, with Lewis F1 in P10, followed by Owl and Adrian Nolan outside of the top 10. In the driver standings, Avenicus extends his championship lead. He now sits on 196 points, which in Division 2 won't really help him anything. Marcelo then in P2 on 149 points, and Boosted up on 145, so they inherited the net championship lead and are split by 4 points only. Maka then in P4 on 108 points and Ashim Basha on 97. Some Pikachu then in P6 on 84 points with Lawn on 83. IRT Apex then on 74 points. The man that left the Qualiban remains in the top 10 still, with FG Yassin on 64 points and Kuroki on 57. Little Pagan with Kami. In the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri obviously extend their championship lead even further. They're now at 334 points, with Red Bull on 221. So even though Venicus is gone, it will be difficult for Red Bull to catch that one up, because AlphaTauri remain with Boosted, who's still a very strong driver. Mercedes then on 210 points, only 11 points off Red Bull in P2. Ferrari then in P4 on 175 points, 45 points actually ahead of Alpine in P5, who sit on 130. They've got Alfa Romeo in P6 on 109 points, McLaren on 90, Aston Martin move up to P8 on 78 points, Haas on 72 in P9, and rock bottom Williams on 54 points. Well, Avenicus, Division 3, that, that, that's the end of it really for you, but we we could see it coming over the last few weeks, especially Blade and me as we were going through it, but yeah, at the end of it, at least one of your most dominant drives really, wasn't it?
I think if I remember right, I had a 3-second penalty for track limits at the end. but there was also safety car close towards the end as well, so the gap obviously diminished. I'm pretty sure I was pulling someone with me. It might have been Hayes. But yeah, Hayes had really good pace all the way through the end of the race. I remember afterwards as well. P4 Luca B and P11 Owl had a bit of an incident. I think coming into the first half of Sector 3. Owl was on for some really good points that race, and the race has been absolutely destroyed. So obviously, hoping they come back next week as well. But they do genuinely have some great pace. Pole as well, very close. Assume Basher, absolutely brilliant drive that race. Was on for much higher, but I don't think he got the strategy call right, to be honest.
I think he had a disconnect as well, which might explain why.
Yes, he did. Yeah. I tried being the sportsman and invited him back. So it took a little bit out of my race, but obviously that didn't matter with the safety car at the end. But yeah, I'm sad to see it go. I was enjoying myself a lot in Div 3, but we'll see what the new challenge is in Div 2.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, well, what can we say to the others of Div 3? Just get faster, boys and girls, actually. Well, yeah, I mean, you obviously were also racing Marcelo and Boosted. They're now quite close. I mean, Maka, Basha, Pikachu, and Lorna all still in contention for it, but it's mainly Marcelo versus Boosted. You think anyone here has the edge, or is it quite balanced, do you reckon?
Going off of a lot of the previous races' pace, obviously Marcelo and Boosted are extremely close. Boosted with the win in Vegas, and Marcelo with China, and I think the first race of the season as well.
I think he has two, yeah. Wait, he has two race wins, that's correct. And the
Yeah.
statistics, yeah.
So
He's won at Australia, and he won in
yes,
China, correct, yes. Bang on.
yeah. So Marcelo is very fast, as we know, and Boosted obviously as well. Having been a teammate, he's extremely consistent. Both of them are. But if I had to say one, which is, I'm rather saying this is rather unfortunate for me because as much as I'd want Boosted to win, being my ex teammate at this point, honestly, I think Marcelo might just have that little bit of an edge. But a lot of it comes down to qualifying, to be honest. I've noticed that Boosted tends to qualify lower but finish much higher in the races as well. For example, Vegas qualified P3, ended P1. Austria started, I'm pretty sure, outside the top 10 and still managed to get into the top 3. So they both have some absolutely mega pace in them. So it's definitely going to go down to the wire.
You say that because I'm just looking on the gained positions as you talked about it. You have gained positions of -1, so I guess we know where you qualified usually. Boosted has gained 11 positions, which is quite solid. And Marcelo, for some reason, gained 38. So I guess he didn't have the best qualities either. Um, but yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we mentioned Ashim Basha earlier, and it looks like in the last few weeks he's got some really strong pace. You reckon if he can sort his Wi-Fi connection out, he can maybe still attack them? Because at this point it seems when you're not there on pure pace, he might actually be quicker than his teammate and maybe boosted.
Yeah, Assume Basher definitely does have a lot of pace. I mean, I think he started Division 3 in Vegas. He finished right behind both myself and Boosted, and he's been consistently behind us, or behind me as well, like since then. And even in Hungary, he got pole, but despite it not being by much, it's still a pole. So I think if he can sort out maybe a bit of his strategy, maybe just some overall pace, he's absolutely got this. He can definitely gain a lot of places.
Well, he's got the number 33 on his car, so he better transform to an absolute Max Verstappen and destroys them all, at least from his point of view. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Yeah, let's stay with those few drivers. I mean, AlphaTauri, instead of you've now signed someone who's called Sonoda. I'm not too sure if that's the actual Sonoda, because if so, I would be surprised that he's only in Division 3. But it looks like at the moment now, as you're gone, Red Bull have the stronger lineup than AlphaTauri. Yet again, Red Bull is 110 points off the lead behind AlphaTauri. Do you reckon that's a gap that can be closed, or does that really need absolute top form of Red Bull and really AlphaTauri to bottle a couple of races?
To be fair, we still have 11 rounds left in the season, with a maximum of 45 points per race, I think it is.
Yes,
So definitely
but
with
actually 47 now, because we've got fastest lap and pole position as well.
yes, good point. So I think definitely with some strong performances, Red Bull can overhaul, but I'm not underestimating the skills of Boosted at all, and I'm sure that Sonoda will also be an absolute addition. But we'll see in the coming races. Honestly, Sonoda's a bit of an unknown, especially to me. I haven't seen him around. But with a lineup like Boosted and like Marcelo and Basher, it's like that's going to be very difficult to beat in the constructors.
Yeah, I think that's nicely summed up. I mean, Boosted, you've heard it here first. Get a move on, your teammate doesn't rate you. So,
Good luck.
well, yeah. I mean, Boosted's never really won a race as well until this season. He's done it at Vegas. So, I mean, could have been more comfortable in the end, but it certainly was a good one to watch as well. But yeah, that's Division 3 wrapped up. Or Blade, have you got anything to add?
No.
Thanks for the constructive criticism. So
I've stolen your job.
I think we move over to Division 4. So this one caused a bit of controversy. Bright got pole with a 14.9. Yes, 14.9, not 15.9. And he's won the race as well. Then we've got ARL Bob in P2 and Ayahuasca in P3, starting in P15 only, so he certainly had a nice recovery going on there. Nebrestrom then in P4, making it an Alpine 1-4, so once again solid points for the French outfit. Remo Banja then in P5 for Ferrari, and Tweaky Scorpion in P6. Raven West, in P7 with Koyi, the AlphaTauri team principal, in P8, and Supra in P9 with Jesper in P10, a man with great form recently, and Mighty J and Deep Dive out of the top 10. Right now, Raven West and Bright are leading the championship ex aequo with 173 points, but as you might have heard already, Bright has been now promoted to Division 3, so he's certainly not going to win this championship unless Raven West doesn't score any more points and picks up points deductions, which would be quite amazing to watch, to be honest. Then we've got Ronnie in P3, miles off Raven West. He's sitting 106 points. We've got Captain Daniel on 104 points in the Haas, and Koyu on 99. RM James then still in P6 on 98 points, but he's retired. Jesper then on 88 points, level on points with White Josh on 88 as well. Ayahuasca then on 85 points in P9, and Quell in P10 on 80. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes still leads away on 285 points, but Alpine is catching them now with the win from Bright, obviously, which he gave them as a final present, and Nebrestrom also performing, so they sit on 233 points, only 52 points off the lead. Red Bull then are level on points with Alfa Romeo on 172 points, with AlphaTauri in P5 on 145, McLaren then on 124 points, and Ferrari on 109, with Williams on 106 and Aston Martin on 104, moving up the table as Haas sit on 96 points. Well, Bright's moved up. First of all, I mean, as said, he's not the only one being moved up divisions this week. Blade, you reckon that's a fair argument? Bright moving up because apparently he's been too fast. You reckon that's fair?
Well, yeah, yes and no, you know. Looking at it from my perspective, I think it's a shame because really Bright was the only one challenging Raven West. Now Raven West really has a massive margin, so I know he was the one of the drivers. He wasn't the only one, I don't think, but obviously he wasn't too happy about Bright's pace. And I think you know, looking at the quality times, certainly Bright's been pretty incredible. I mean, I think that time might have put you in top 10 in Div 1. I don't think, maybe not quite, but it wouldn't have been.
It was amazing quality time.
Yeah, it was a very good lap. I think quicker than Div 3 pole and not. I mean, half a tenth of Gentavar. So it's that's a crazy lap from him. But yeah, we know that Bright's strength is quali, not his race pace slash racecraft. You know, so I think it is a bit of a shame, but also I don't know what Bright's point of view was if he wanted the opportunity to race in Division 3 with even stronger drivers. I think I've said many times, getting promoted to the next division is definitely a good way to improve your racing against probably overall stronger drivers than the division below, because that's kind of the point of divisions, and you can learn more about how to be quicker, and yeah, I think definitely if Bright did want to move up, he definitely deserved it. But yeah, well, I mean, regardless, it's pretty amazing. He was in Division 7, the bottom division last game, and on this game he's moved all the way up to Division 3, which is pretty crazy. So I think he should be, regardless of how he feels about it, should be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And as you said, it depends on what Bright was thinking about it as well. I mean, I remember he said, like, of course, he's now basically right in it, but he said, like, if he gets moved up, that's how it is, which I think is a very good, like, opinion.
It's a mature view, I think.
Yeah, that's the word I was searching for there. Very mature behavior for sure from Bright, because I'm usually from drivers that I think progress from quite low down upwards. The ego builds faster than the racecraft. That's not difficult for Bright, but yeah, I guess maybe it's for the better, because if he can't improve his racecraft, he will probably struggle in Division 3, because I think there are a couple of drivers who are quite a bit ahead of him in that sense. And I mean, a good quality position is a good thing to have for sure, but you know, it's in the end of the day, it's the race that really matters. That's going to be interesting for sure. But behind Ravenwest, the championship is the Division 4.5 championship is going on between Ronnie, Captain Daniel, Koyi, and many more. Before we focus on this battle, though, we see Captain Daniel is on 104 points for Haas. Haas have scored 96 points. Captain Daniel obviously was reserved for the first 1 or 2 weeks he raced. It still means, though, that Haas have mainly scored points through Captain Daniel. And this will probably explain why that far down the order, isn't it, Blade? Because that's not ideal.
Yeah, it certainly isn't. I don't think in the last 3 rounds, they've scored 5 points, which isn't the greatest. I think Captain Daniel I don't know whether he's not been turning up, but if he has been, he's not had the best of races. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're not seeing Williams or Aston Martin at the bottom for once. So it's not just Division One where one team is where a team other than Aston Martin and Williams are last. So I guess that's good to see, and of course it has to be Haas who were by far the worst in season three. So you know, I mean, we're a team to be fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, Haas's driver combination, game attack wise, is championship material. I mean, I think nothing can beat Captain Daniel and Daniel Jack, but that's just my personal opinion. Off topic though, looking at the Drivers' Championship again for that basically best of the rest battle, it looks like recently, especially with Ayahuasca's podium this week, that AlphaTauri have got a quite solid driver pairing going on here, because Mercedes now got Eagle, who got promoted from Division 5, I believe. So he probably needs to get used to the little bit stronger pace in this division. But Avenicus, once again, your team. You praised Koyi earlier. Ayahuasca is obviously probably around his pace. They're both in the same division, KRL. You reckon AlphaTauri have got a good pairing that could potentially at least try to get closer towards Raven West and at least make it a tad more interesting?
They definitely seem like it, especially because of this race. Ayahuasca finishing P3, Koi P8, and as you said when you started this division, Ayahuasca P3 from P15 on a track that's notoriously difficult to overtake, and Raven West down in P7. So, looking at the recent results, Raven West hasn't really been too high up, so maybe it will be a bit more interesting, and hopefully, for my team, of course, Koyi and Ayahuasca can get much more up there and bring us up in the overall standings as well, because bringing those up, if so, AlphaTauri as a team, we're 30 points behind Alpine, so I think P3, possibly P2 is the goal this season in the overall constructors.
Yeah, overall constructors, good point. You bring that up actually. I mean, statistically, like, or just in general, it is the most important thing you can win. So that's probably why Koyi has tried to get Ayahuasca back in it. He obviously left mid-season. He was an AlphaTauri driver, but rejoined in the end. And it's good that he's helping Koyi out in this championship. And as you said, I mean, P15 to P3 at tracks like France, Spa, okay, possible, yeah. But Hungary is a tough one, and you can't say, okay, a couple of safety cars have sorted the order. I mean, it's not that easy, because you can get easily collected in one of those restarts as well. So yeah, to have two drivers in the top 10 is certainly good to have. And well, it is hard to say because Blade, we talked about this the other day privately as well, when we said we don't think Raven West is the quickest. If you ignore Bright now, he still probably isn't the quickest on pure pace. He's just very consistent. Who would you consider as probably the one to have the best pace? I was thinking of people maybe like Nebrestrom, who looked quick. Sonic probably is quick. The favorite pronunciation of Kuel. Uh, who do you think is probably like on pure pace the best one to look at? Yeah, he could win the next race, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little hard for me to say because haven't really raced against too many of these guys, but
Yeah, obviously.
yeah, obviously first of all there's Raven West who he, like we said, he probably isn't the paciest driver in the division. But you know, one of the things like we've always said, really, or like I've always said, is you need consistency to be able to win a title, and as long as you're not consistently out of the points, which doesn't really count as good consistency in my eyes. Yeah, that's definitely one of the stronger attributes to have. That being said, though, whether it's pressure from Bright previously hunting him down. In the last couple races, he definitely hasn't been doing as well. So, yeah, I think maybe now that he hasn't got Bright chasing him down, he might be, have a little less pressure, might perform better in these races. But I think, Kel, he's definitely a driver that we've known for a long time, and I think I don't know. I think he's pretty aggressive, but he's always very pacey. Um, Nibra I think, yeah, he's a very strong driver. Don't know about Sonic. I haven't heard him too much, but
He's
if you
old
say he's a good
sport
driver,
last game
then
when he was on Xbox, if that tells you
old
anything.
sport. Wasn't he in Div 7?
Nope, that was Div
No,
5, I think. But I might be wrong. I don't think he was Div 7. If so, I
yeah.
don't know anyone in my league. But
Yeah, I think isn't Jesper pretty decent? Yeah, Jesper
Jesper's
seems
won
pretty
2
quick. Yeah,
races, I think, as well recently. So
yeah,
that's why he's moved up.
yeah. So, has he been moved up? You say?
No, what did I say?
Oh,
He's
in the
improved.
standings, you
That's what I
mean?
was thinking about. He's really improved, and that's why he's moved up the order in the championship.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think Jesper's definitely a quick one. I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. I think maybe potentially less pressure on Raven West might mean he makes a bit of a comeback. Or well, not a comeback because he doesn't really need one, but he has a little bit of form. But
Let's
you
hope
know,
he has a shocker.
for the championship's sake, I agree.
It could also mean that he just takes it really easy now as well, because of that massive lead that he has in the championship. He's got room to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
How did
both ways. You can
how
see it
did
both
good
ways,
old
I think.
Max Verstappen say? As soon as it looks comfortable, it's slow. Well, so let's hope he's
Well,
comfortable. Not for our World Constructors Championship's sake, but for this championship, because if others catch up, we probably have suddenly 10 contenders, which will be quite interesting because it will put this into Division 7 levels. But yeah, that's enough of Division 4. We now head over to Division 5. Division 5 was a difficult one this week because Division 5 and Division 6 are now the same division. So I'm actually going to read out 2 race results for one division now. So the actual Division 5 race had Button winning. It's not Jensen, just Button in the Williams. The Williams as well. That's ideal. Erna in P2 then for Mercedes, Freezy in P3, Equa in P4, Fish Sticks on his debut in P5, and Andrew in P6 with fastest lap and pole go to Freezy. In Division 6, so basically the other division that has been merged into this championship, we had a bigger grid where I think Blade and me could expect that one. Sintium got pole and Sintium won the race. Then we've got Berberini in second, 10th Cannon in third, Eagle in P4, Daza in P5, J Street in P6, Azrael in P7, The Attacks in P8, Lino in P9, and DNF Superior Hayes, Milk Cow, the championship leader, Doorstop, Theodore, and Kieran. Looking at the Drivers' Championship of this merged division, we have Milk Cow leading the championship with 139 points, 1 point ahead of Andrew on 138. We've got 10th Cannon on 129, Freezy on 124. So that has 2 of the Hus boys doing well, but they are not finished because Lexus is on 112 in P5 and Cintium, basically the third Haas driver, with 107 points. McMessidan on 95 points, with Kieran on 81 and Rizlan Barberina on 78. Constructor standings. I said divisions got merged, so the points are way more than in any other division. Alfa Romeo lead with 391 points, ahead of Haas on 352. Ferrari come into second on 328 points, and AlphaTauri on 315. McLaren then on 294 points, with Mercedes on 260. Red Bull on 204, with Aston Martin on 201. Alpine on 185, 3 points ahead of Williams on 182. So Williams even managed to be last when two divisions are merged, which is perfect. This sums up the season, really. Well, let's talk about one particular driver first. We've done this every week so far, so why stopping that? Cintium. Season results. DNF, 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 P1, P17, P13, DNF, DNF, P1, P1, P1. 3 wins in a row out the back. How? Explain, Blade.
I don't know. He's stopped crashing.
Yeah, that's a good. Wow, that's great analysis there.
Yeah.
Thanks for that one. No, I mean,
You're welcome.
no, but it's amazing. Like we talked about Haas in the other divisions, and they weren't really that good. And now with the merge, they had 3 good drivers in Freezy from Div 5 and 10th Cannon and Cintium from Division 6, which is once again disadvantaging them because they have to let one driver go in Freezy because 10th Cannon and Cintium obviously stay teammates. You reckon they can still do well, especially if Cintium's form, or do you reckon Freeze is a big loss for the Haas team?
Well, yeah, I don't really know. I think maybe Haas's ideal lineup could have been Cintium and Freezy, but then again, 10th Cannon is no slouch. Well, at least not in the race, maybe in quali, but
Which quali?
yeah.
He always takes a quali back.
Does he? He's one of those AMS Lloyd too.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, like, he can't go quicker.
Oh, so you mean he quali bans himself by not driving quickly?
Yes.
Yeah. No. I don't know. I think that was pretty harsh on 10th Cannon to say because he scored a lot of Hass's points, but then again, Freezy was in the division above, and he was doing well in the division above. So I mean, I guess it's fair enough. But yeah, obviously big loss for them, but I think they still have they probably have one of the strongest lineups regardless. Because I mean, even if I'm gonna have to scroll down to the Div 6 results. Even if 10th Cannon, he qualified 8th, so not terrible, but yeah,
We move.
yeah, they're I think they're gonna still be one of the strong lineups, and generally Div 6 attendance was better than Div 5 anyway, so I think we probably have a little better understanding of the divs where the Div 6 drivers are in comparison to the Div 5 drivers. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see now that the divisions are merged where the Div 5 drivers will play into it. I feel like even with the promotion, I guess, of the whole of Division 6, I think Cynthia might still be, with his current form, the favourite to win the next few races potentially. So
yeah, the next 11.
Yeah, I mean that would be good for him, that's for sure. He definitely wants to keep his win or DNF by winning the rest of them instead of DNFing the rest of them. So but
The thing
We'll see
is,
what happens.
if Sintin wins every race now and Milkow finishes second every race, he only wins the championship by 20 points. So,
Yeah.
I mean, only. He's 32 behind, I guess. That sounds like a
Yeah.
big deal.
Well.
But, well. Avenicus, as you had such a close championship in Division 3, this one is clearly closer. Looking at the merge, what's your opinion? Because Milkow was Division 6, same as 10th Cannon. You have AlphaTauri Division 6 driver from Lexus here. You reckon those guys can keep up with the likes of Andrew and Freezy, who were Division 5 before? We obviously haven't raced here, but you reckon that should be quite balanced in that kind of skill level?
Certainly looks close. I mean, having not really seen, like you said, the previous results, it's a bit hard to tell, but seemingly, if they keep it consistent enough, then they should be able to be up there. Yeah, both Lexus and Drizzle for AlphaTauri here. So hopefully, going to be bringing in some good points for us. Yeah, total point standings overall. If we look at it, Ferrari down to McLaren gapped by about 34 points only. So a good weekend for either one of those teams. So could literally vault them up a lot. So we'll see how the coming races go, but as to how close the championship is, you've got Milk Cow on 144, followed by NJ on 139, and then Andrew on 138. So looks to be extremely close. If either one of them gets even a slight advantage, I'm sure they'll maximize it to any way that they can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to finish off Division 5, basically. I mean, this is now this. We had two divisions where Williams, I think, weren't last. I mean, Blade, anything to add to that amazing season from them once again?
Oh man. I don't know what to say really. Well, my old team, they're falling to pieces. What has happened?
Well,
Yeah,
they've
maybe
signed
I'll have
Logan
to
Sargent,
return, you
which was
know.
the downfall, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe Williams have a lot of retirements, and maybe a lot of them are just becoming bits too dehydrated and
The mid-session.
leaving the game. Yeah, retiring in the pits. So, despite not being in 40 degrees, well, probably about 60-degree saunas, but we move. Sim racing and driving is in real life is the same, clearly.
Anyways, let's move over to the best championship of the season, because we've just done Division 5, and what does come after Division 5? Exactly, Division 7. Oh, we are great at counting. So, Mike Reed and the Haas won this week from P5. Mason Rott, a newcomer, got pole position but finished P2. Sion Desert, the championship leader, in P3 with Axe Flasher in P4. Quick Mick certainly wasn't quick enough for the podium, but still P5 on his debut, with Gaza Buchanan in P6. Leo Hamilton then in P7, and Essela Vettel sets the fastest lap in P8. Martinez won in P9 for Mercedes, and Tyler Smith in P10. Just about beats Sparky, who finishes P11, and then we've got DNFs from Monopole, Monster, Static, Blast Alpha, and Moss. Looking at the driver standings, we've got Cian Desert in the lead on 134 points, Axe Flasher then on P2 and 118.5 points, as many as Gaza Buchanan in P3. Then we've got Leo Hamilton in P4 on 115 points for the Williams driver, Mike Reed then in P5 on 95 points, Logan J in P6 on 93, Stuart 92.5 in P7, Moss on 92 points as well, Brad Dunstan in P9 on 88, and Lucinho, or Ace Guy, however you want to call him, on 65 points in P10. looking at the Constructors' Championship, McLaren lead still with 217 points. Then we've got Haas in second, moving up to this position on 213.5 points, and Williams on 208. Ferrari then on 174.5 points, with Alpine on 142.5. Mercedes go up into sixth place on 131 points, with Alfa Romeo on 123. Red Bull then on 109.5, AlphaTauri on 96.5, and Aston Martin below 50 points with 49.5 points. So the fastest lap of Vettel was not enough to get them above that. Well, I mean, this championship is something different. I mean, we now looking once again at the race results. Had Mike Reed win again. I mean, he's one of those, isn't he, Blade? He just isn't performing really for 2 or 3 rounds and then he wins. That's just certainly an interesting trait to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what a consistency. So, yeah, I don't know what he's been doing. I think he's been enjoying his Monday evenings not racing in GRL, which is not what we like to see. But you know, I think so anyway. I don't know, but he's come back and he's won, so I
Well, he was
suppose he
racing
can
a
be happy
couple
with
of
that.
times, but he just didn't score big points, which is, yeah, rather lack of
Has he?
consistency.
Oh, well, yeah. Certainly, he's won this one, so he should enjoy it and then not try not to crash the following week, because yeah, he's not too far behind in the title. I think you'd consider him in the title fight, perhaps. So
Well, everyone is in this title fight.
yeah, that is true. But he's still worth him turning up, I think, or not crashing or whatever he's doing. So hopefully he can continue this form into the following races.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it looked like Sion had the edge on the others, but now in the recent rounds, I mean, it finished P3 again, but it looks like he certainly isn't getting away from the rest of the pack, and it is difficult really to be ahead of 10 other drivers every week, especially with those full grids as well. Looking at the team standings, as we said previously, this is a prime example for where Haas and Williams get their points from, especially Williams, because they are really working hard to not score too many at this rate. But also McLaren, they've got a solid drive pairing in Sion and Moss. But yeah, I mean, we talked about Williams early in the other divisions, but Aston Martin, this division is one of them that's really hurting them because they're realistically 50 points off where they should be. I mean, Avenicus, what would you do if your team is really far off? And this is also considering this is the bottom division, so it theoretically should be quite easy on how to get points. You just finish races, which is theoretically how every race works. But in general, what do you think could be a new approach for them to kind of get the season up and running at some point?
I think a lot of it is down to, like you said, finishing races and for some people as well, turning up to races. I mean, for some people we've seen, for some divisions rather, a lot of the attendance has been quite low for certain rounds. But I mean, if we go back to China, Division 3, we only had 7 people racing. But honestly, I think some people don't realise that it's the top 15 that score points this season, and I think that's definitely something rather key that some people are missing out on. So I think a lot of it is just getting to the flag and trying to stay out of incidents as much as you can. And if you can get those further points up ahead, then absolutely all for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I think from the other podcasts we've done so far, I think Blade and me can agree that, for example, SLR Vettel is probably now not a driver that's going to hunt everyone down for a championship. But I think we can both agree he can score your points. Blade, we know him from, well, I say we know him from last season. He was basically there for 5 weeks in season 3. But Azrael is now in Division 7. You reckon he's maybe someone that could pick up solid points for Aston Martin? Or do you think it's just hard to tell because we still haven't seen much from him?
Yeah, Azrael rings a bell. Yeah. I think if you haven't seen a driver drive, it's going to be quite hard to tell where they're going to be on the grid. So I'll just leave you with that beautiful opinion. No, I think from what I remember, he wasn't too bad. So if he's got the same pace as he did on last game and last season, I think he'll be scoring good points for Aston Martin, which they do desperately need. So,
I mean, he can't
yeah.
really disappoint them because
Yeah.
they can't do much worse.
Yeah, well, just ask AlphaTauri in Division 1.
Yeah.
To be fair to you, for this division, we've had, in the last 5 races, we've had 5 different winners. So who to call for the next one?
That's actually a good point. I mean, we obviously do not know who could have potentially won the next race because we are not at all recording this after Portugal. So this is going to be a tough one to call. But yeah, I think Blade and me mentioned that before. It's so good in this division because you can't find really out who the best driver is, or maybe, I mean, I guess there is a best driver because that's how maths work. But we had Sion having a couple of good rounds. Axe Flasher was strong at the start. Gaza was never great, but he was always there or thereabout, which shows his
He
consistency.
stumbled into the top positions, you might say.
Yeah, that's that's a bit rude. Sorry, Gaza, but I think you might agree. This is probably how you got there. But if as soon as you win a race, I'm gonna shut up. So, Leo Hamilton had a couple of good rounds now. I think Mike Reed wins, disappears for 3 weeks, wins, disappears for 3 weeks. Yeah, that's his season. Logan, I think, got a couple of second places. Stubb also had a strong start, now was away for a couple of weeks. He's looking to return. Moss is also one of those. He was usually around in the top 10, but no amazing results. Then he won a race and it immediately pushes him up. And I think nobody, in our personal opinion, Blade can beat the man with the number 44 in Browns to Buns. I mean, Free Palestine is just way too clear out of everyone on this grid, but that's just a fact, really. Nobody can compare against him, really. So, yeah, it's gonna be for sure very interesting. I mean, Blade, you've had a look, like, at least at the standings and everything, because the division obviously doesn't get streamed. But if you had to pick someone to perform quite shortly, who would you maybe go for?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but let's have a look at the standings. I think, to be honest, I think Leo Hamilton has made some good inroads, but also Sion has, like, if you look back, Sion's also had a very good run as well. If you asked me who to back, I'd probably back Sion because he wasn't, he was quite far off the lead towards the beginning of the season. But he's climbed his way to the top, and he has a little bit of a margin. But I think in this division the pace is pretty even across the board, so it's not going to be easy for him. It's definitely probably the hardest division to win the title in because there's so many people on such similar levels of pace. So yeah, if I had to back one, I'd back Sion, but it really is anyone's game still.
Yeah, I mean, as said, whoever does the championship permutations at the end of the season for the last race is going to have fun with the calculator. That's for sure. But yeah, if I had to pick someone, I would probably take the risk of putting Mason Rott to finish second this week and got pole because, I mean, yeah, it's not really progress from pole to finish second. I think on your debut, still, like, I mean, Division 7 is surely quite a bit about surviving in the end of the day. So, yeah, I would go for him. Avenicus, who would you guess for the win?
For me, looking at the past couple of results, Axe Flasher definitely looks fast. It's just that in Zanvor and Suzuka, he's DNF'd, but he's been consistently there or thereabouts. So if I had to go between Sky and Desert and Axe Flasher, it would be between either of those two for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be fair on Axe Flasher, he's a good guy, but you know, he just had one big issue at Sandward. I remember that one. He was behind Tyler Smith, and that's what I don't wish my worst enemies, really. That's, nobody wants to be behind Taylor Smith because Sparky is ahead of Tyler Smith and he's P11 in the championship. Sparky's actually had a good couple of rounds now as well, picking up a couple of points and now only 9.5 points off the top 10. I mean, Blade and Sparky's been here for so long, but he's right. He is a shot at the top 10 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Sparky's mentality is the best mentality. Finish the race and there will be points, which a lot of people don't seem to understand. So,
Yeah.
this is why Sparky is the GOAT of GRL and why he always will be.
Yeah, I mean, look at his progression. P9, P12, P13, P10, P12, P11, P13, P12, P9, P5. I mean, and now P11. But still, that P5 at Japan, I feel like that's energized our favorite darts player. But yeah, for sure, very interesting in both championship this one is. So yeah, to top it off, I think we should have a look at the overall standings. Avenicus has got the most points out of all drivers. He's got 210. Then we've got Gente Bars on 205 and Snipes on 180. Looking though at the overall constructor standings from this week, we've got Mercedes on 1,456 points. They had a decent weekend overall. Alfa Romeo then in second on 1,282 points. Alpine 1,143.5 points. AlphaTauri 1,113.5. Aston on 1,089.5, 2 points ahead of Ferrari. Then in P7 we've got McLaren 1,042, Red Bull on 968.5, Aston Martin on 825.5, and Williams on 766. I mean, actually, we started this podcast really with AlphaTauri. I mean, Avenicus, your team is certainly, considering where they were at the start of the season, they've progressed a lot. And you said that P2 could be the target. You reckon that the AlphaTauri squad is strong enough to actually attack Alfa Romeo? I mean, it's going to take a couple of rounds still, obviously, because they're not just going to stop scoring points, are they? But you reckon AlphaTauri has the strength and depth to do at least enough to secure themselves the runners-up spot?
I certainly hope so. I mean, P3 we absolutely have a shot at. We've been fighting Alpine for it for the majority of the season now. But the end goal is arguably P2. I believe we can fight for it. I think we have a strong overall lineup. We've got some fantastic drivers with us in our different divisions. So if we don't get it, I think it's understandable, honestly. But if we do get it, I think all of us will be buzzing because that's absolutely shown how dedicated and committed we are to this, and just shows the skill of how much skill our drivers have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as I said, from where they've come, amazing. But yeah, you were ahead of Alpine by 1 point last week, and now Alpine have passed you again. But Blade, looking at this, looks like Alpine had a very strong week as well, scoring 111. If I'm not
Yeah,
fully mistaken, 110, I think.
yeah.
So yeah, very strong by them. I mean, they obviously have a strong lineup in Division One, but that doesn't mean really that that's enough to be good in the overall. What do you think? I mean, Alpine, because they've always been like third and fourth this season, they have not really like they weren't on the radars that much, but they're still the defending champions in overall constructors. Do you think they also have shown now that they are still it's still on the cards for them to at least come second?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Alpine know how to win an overall Constructors' Championship. Let's ignore that they are completely different team owners. But yeah, they've done well this race. I think they're up and down in their divisions. I think they have some really strong ones and some weaker ones. But yeah, like looking at Alfa Romeo, they've had a pretty shocking weekend. They might have scored less than Williams, which
That
yeah, I
is
mean,
that is below average.
if you've scored less than Williams, then there needs to be an internal meeting for the team because yeah, that is pretty poor. So yeah, I think a couple races ago we were saying, oh, Alfa Romeo are going to hunt down Mercedes and take the lead, but now they're the ones being hunted down by Alpine and even AlphaTauri, who I think, well, really, AlphaTauri and Alpine have kind of been next to each other this entire time. I think they've swapped positions. I think every week for like the past couple of weeks.
They have,
So
yes. Oh my god.
yeah.
It's
So maybe
magnificent.
AlphaTauri will be ahead of Alpine next week. We'll find out.
Or
But
Haas.
yeah,
I mean,
Haas and Ferrari are doing the same thing, as well.
yeah,
So um, yeah, I mean it's pretty close, isn't it? For P2 really. So but I think we say Alpine's had a great weekend. Mercedes have had an even better weekend once again. So Mercedes are looking comfortable. They've got some. I think we've always said this, but Mercedes seem to just be competitive in every division. I don't. I think. Well, a couple of weeks ago, their lowest position was P6 in the constructor standings in any division. So. It's kind of no wonder why they're in P1, whereas, like I said, Alpine are up and down, Alfa Romeo up and down, AlphaTauri definitely up and down, especially in Division 1. I mean, yeah. Um,
yeah.
Haas, I don't really know where their points are coming from, but they're clearly coming from somewhere. Um,
Probably CDTM
so,
at this point.
yeah. Um, Ferrari as well, similar with Haas, they're kind of like they're not really far off, but I don't really remember them being good in any division. I think we pointed that out last week. And McLaren as well. Obviously, they're leading Div 7 constructors, I think, but
Yes.
and not by a very big margin. So that probably explains why they're lower down. But
They've always been P7 really. P7, 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 P8, 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 P8. I mean, they obviously they can't be behind Williams or Aston because that would end the season. But the best they've been this season was P5. So yeah. And you were also talking about like Mercedes extending the gap. You obviously were fighting with Williams for this championship last season, and you were like, yeah, maybe we gained this week. And Alpine always kept like managing the gap. Do you think at some stage, as team owner, if you manage to cause your team to be like in the inner calmness when you just at the top of the standings in this Constructors' Championship by just over, let's say, 100 points. Do you think it goes over into such a management mode that you, if you're on the top, can nicely manage the gap so you're going into the last few rounds when the overall constructors is obviously one of the main aims when you can win it. When you can say, look, guys, we don't need to go full push. We can manage this. We've got enough of a margin. Do you think that that gives everyone like the security that they don't have to absolutely smash it out the park?
I don't know. Probably not.
Okay.
Because I think the thing is, I think not too many people actually think when they're driving about the overall constructors. I think
Nah,
most
that's the
people are
most
focused,
important.
yeah.
I've never
Yeah, well,
driven without thinking about the overall constructors.
you know, I mean, let's be honest. They just don't know what the true things in life matters, you know. But I don't know, you know, maybe the team owners can set up like a bloody Microsoft Teams meeting or something, you know.
Yeah, I
How you
mean,
doing,
to be
guys?
honest, the the other day I was having an awful day, I was running from one spot to the other, but I was like, okay, let's calm down. This is not too bad. The main aim of my life is the overall constructors because this was what it's all about. So,
Yeah,
you just need to set priorities. GRL overall constructors is more important than life.
yeah. I mean, it's GRL overall constructors is the one thing getting me out of bed in the morning, you know. So, what can I say? But yeah, I mean, obviously Mercedes. I don't think they need to do this because they're already gaining on everyone else. So I think Beefwood needs to tell everyone to just carry on doing what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, this is certainly let's say one of the most important championship of the season. Championships. Nice singular there. But yeah, Avenicus. I mean, you've also said about Alpha Tauri and Alpine the battle and maybe catching Alfa Romeo. Do you also see it this way that it's basically all quite close from like Alfa Romeo, let's say, down to McLaren, but is Mercedes already for at least teams around the P4, P5 area out of reach? Like, of course, it's theoretically still easily possible because theoretically Mercedes will DNF the next 6 rounds and you just win every race with AlphaTauri. But do you think Mercedes have got already a quite solid margin to at least come second?
I mean, one can hope, but I think yeah, at the moment they've got a pretty good lead. I was just working it out in my head. I think it's just over 300 points if every team in every division got a 1-2 and fastest lap and pole.
Okay,
So as unlikely as that is, if by some miracle it happened, someone would absolutely jump up the order, even if it's, well, down to Red Bull. I don't know whether. I don't think Williams would only go up to
Williams are not gonna
only
score
P7
more than
if they did that.
110 points at any week. That's not even
Yeah,
theoretically
bit of a
possible for
safe bet
Williams.
there, I think maybe, but I think Mercedes at the moment, with the way with the current pace that they have, they don't have anything to worry about. Honestly, yes, you've got the odd threat here and there, but overall, they're absolutely fantastic this season. I think that at this point, they can start to relax a little bit, but
Of
then
course, you're
again,
gonna say that.
this is overall
Relax.
constructors. So it's not the main priority. They've got, I know, in Division 2, they've got Genta Bars, Dylan Baxter. In Division 3, you've got, I think it's
Maka and
Lorne and
Horn,
Maka, who are, all of those are absolutely fantastic drivers, and Beeford as well in, what is it, Division 1. So,
defending champion as well.
yeah, exactly. So
I
they've
mean,
got some absolutely cracking drivers within them, so
Yeah.
I don't see why they can't relax.
I mean, talking of cracking drivers, Blade, we both know in the lower divisions as well. Mercedes have got Tyler Smith and Greeny. I think with those two guys in the team, there can basically nothing go wrong there, right?
I mean, I want to see both of them as teammates because that would be the dream, you know. The well, I mean, I don't really know how you define them, to be honest.
The two
They are
clutch
just,
drivers.
I mean, what can I say? They are carrying Mercedes. This is why they're leading. And I don't think anyone can dispute this. Those are the two people in this league who wake up in the morning on Mondays and think, I'm going to score 25 points for Mercedes in GRL Constructors Overall Championship.
I mean, we laugh at this now, but the funny thing is, in a couple of months, they could have something you don't do. A role for an overall Constructors Championship.
That is true. Well,
I mean,
what can I say?
Tyler's a good guy. He's just started driving F1 really at the start of this season, and he's picked up a couple of points. He's already on the level of SLR Vettel, which isn't too bad. But well, good old RM Graney, if you have one championship less than RM Graney, you probably need to question something. But yeah, that's this championship basically done. As said, Aston Martin and Williams are going nowhere. They've now Aston Martin, I think, are even gapping Williams. Or am I wrong? I think they scored more, didn't they?
You are correct. I think they've gapped them pretty significantly. I mean, the gap was only about, what? I think it was 27.5 points at one point.
It was
And
3 weeks ago, it was 14. And then it was, 37.5. It
oh
was
yeah, 37
at the
points.
start of September, so 1 month ago, it was 37 points, and now it's 60. I mean,
Yeah.
Williams should maybe consider selling their team again.
I mean, who's? I mean, Triangular Lemon. If he wants a Fredo, he might as well be selling it to. He might as well be selling it to McMessy so he can manage two
I've said this
teams.
already, but I can just say this once again before the season, because he's always, I know Triangular Lemon for quite a while now, and he's always been team owner leagues for Williams, and he obviously trialed it in season 3.5 of GRL as well. And he said to me personally in DMs, in season 4 of GRL, we are going for the overall Constructors Championship. I'm lacking confidence in this quote.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the project is underfunded like Williams in real life. They don't have enough Fredos.
Things that age well and things that age poorly.
Well, I mean, we can hope that they suddenly gain 800 points. But, well, that's basically this podcast wrapped up as well for almost Portugal. Hungary, that was. Portugal's next week. Portimao.
Yeah.
Sprint race this time. And yeah, there's not much else to say really. I hope we entertained you a little bit. And to finish this off, I can really only quote the madman himself in TTM Cinity, with saying, "We'll see you when GRL returns after we've raced in the shithole of Portimao."